Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Pies Presser. Is Zack Butters trying to find a way out of Port Adelaide this off-season? And we can discuss much more, driven by you guys tonight. It's time to talk all things black and white. Zack Butters, huh? Zack Butters. Just, Operation Zack Butters. Yep. It's time to deploy. Do everything we can to secure this man's services. Is butter any good for your face, or is this gonna go left? Because I can see my face going red already. Anyways, that didn't quite pan out. I was hoping it would stick like paint, but Butters melts. Guys, I hope in all seriousness, I hope we're all doing super well. Welcome to a Sunday evening show. I thought, we've been doing Monday to Friday, and in the off season, I wasn't sure how much of a Sunday evening show we were necessarily going to do. However, because of how much news we've heard of over the course of the last few days, plus the Copeland Trophy was Friday night, which was an amazing stream. I thank you all for being there. That was a blast. That was actually one of my favorite streams of the year by far and away. So appreciate all your support there. Zack Butters. So we're here today from, I believe it was Mitch Cleary, that Zack Butters had asked the question 4 weeks, with 4 weeks remaining in the season, and he wanted out, essentially. He wanted out. Other clubs or clubs who are interested in Butters' services, such as Hawthorn, the Dogs, the Pies, and everyone else, really. I mean, if you don't have your eyes on Zack Butters, are you really doing everything you can for the club, your club, to be successful? Probably not. So there are some hopes there. There are definitely some hopes. And we just have to ask the question, are we any chance to get this guy? I've asked myself, where does the draft capital from? Where are our stocks that we can move? We've spoken about Bobby Hill. We've spoken about Bo McCreary. But the other thing that's come into play, based on what we understand, is that we do have access to a 2026 first rounder if we were to go for someone younger in the trade window. Now, yes, this is the off-season. I told you guys at the start, we're going to get 40 names minimum linked to us. We're probably at 10, maybe 12 names in the last, if we include the final series. I mean, not 12, maybe that's an over-exaggeration, but you see where it's going and what I'm saying. The numbers are ridiculous, isn't it? So, see the story on McGuane? The Pies are not committing to him? Where's this? Where is this? Is that news? Oscar McInerney decides to retire. Okay, there's that. Wow, okay. Collingwood has told Tom McGuane they will not be nominating him as a father-son pick at the national draft. The Pies will decide whether they nominate him as a rookie draft after the trade period, but rivals will be free to swoop on him as a national pick. Wow. Okay. I'm wondering there if, one, there's a part to it where they just don't think he's quite good enough, but two, it's like, are we trying to reserve as many picks as possible to use in the trade period? Or what's more likely, we probably like other players more than Tom McGuane in the national draft. Yeah, so there's a few things at play there. Guys, my chat's being annoying. My chat's being incredibly annoying right now. It won't let me pin it to the right side. Let me pin it to the right, and it's like, it's in a position where it just throws me off, I guess. And I can't get my rhythm. Can't get my rhythm going. Come on. Come on, chat. So annoying. Close it. You just close the dockable. Bear with me, guys. We're working through it. Anyways, it's just going to have to be like this, isn't it? Butters will request a trade to Collingwood, says Chris. I mean, look, if Port Adelaide want to secure the best deal, maybe it's in their best interest to consider trading away Zack Butters now because he has a year left to play on his contract. That's pre-agency. That's the best position and the best time for Port Adelaide to consider trading a superstar because they have a bit of leverage in that conversation, don't they? So that's the question you must ask of the club if you're Zack Butters, and sort of paint it in a way that it's a positive picture for Port to consider it now rather than next year. Because when you go into free agency next year, you look at a player like Bailey Smith, for example, where a trade needed to be facilitated, which is what will happen with Zack Butters. If there's not if say Butters nominates a club, he says, I want to go to Collingwood next year. Maybe not Collingwood. Let's say Hawthorn. I want to go to Hawthorn next year. If Hawthorn can't strike a reasonable deal with Port and they get to the last day of the trade period, there's every chance that a player in Zack Butters' situation goes for less than what they're truly worth. That's the risk they run by running out the contract. He's a restricted free agent, Ava. So we will, or a club will send an offer to Butters. Port Adelaide can match it and force a trade, which is what's going to happen. How would we get Butters? So I just said we do have the access to a 2026 first round draft pick. We can access that through AFL exemption. However, we would probably need to trade a player away, and it would probably require a three-way trade. The only names you can possibly think of are Bobby Hill and Beau McCreary, unless you guys have a different opinion. To be honest, if it's between Bobby and Butters, who is going to get us next flag? If our midfield is weak, then small forwards won't help. We've got to fix our engine. It needs another A grader next to Nick. And the problem is we're probably not going to find an A++ midfielder at the club internally. Josh Dacos can be a great player in the midfield, yet unproven. Same goes with Beau McCreary. Can his body hold up? Ed Allen, showing signs, best young player. Di Mattia, VFL best and fairest. But Perryman, maybe he rolls through the midfield, but I think you have to find something better than that. Teresa says, ain't no chance we're giving up Beau. Question is, though, let's put on our business hat, yeah? It's black and white. It's a black and white business hat. If someone told you, if you trade Beau McCreary, you can get Zack Butters, would you factor that in? Would you add Beau to the trade? So let's ask the question as a poll. If Beau, and it's part of a larger package, right? I'm not saying Beau's going to get you Zack on its own. Obviously not. Could assist with facilitating a Butters trade. Would you consider trading Beau? For me, it's a yes, if I'm being honest. But I know a lot of you guys, I mean, I highly rate Beau, but we're talking about Zack Butters. Voidoid says, to my way of thinking, I know we can get him as a free agent, but I don't want to waste another season only to end up having to trade Butters for Butters anyway if Port matched the offer. That's what I'm saying. If it would work best for all parties, you make the argument next year that we're best positioned then to trade for him, but it's probably in Port's best interest to trade this year. Yeah, look, I don't think, Voidoid, we're necessarily going to be wasting a year. And I understand the premise of wanting to get Zack Butters in for next year so we can just go bang, bang, bang. But there is a reality, guys, where we might live in a world for a year where maybe we're not top 4. But at the very least, you want to stay within contention of the top 8. Bobby and Ed Allen to go to the Eagles for pick 2. Yeah, look, I've been of the opinion I'd like to hold on to Ed Allen for another year rather than see him go, and then he could become a hell of a player at the Eagles. And I don't know what his worth is, but a lot of you are pretty certain that he's worth something in the trade period. So while his name hasn't been mentioned or leaked, so to speak, maybe there's that as well. Mello says we might have to trade Bobby to get Humphrey. Yep, that's a possibility. The only way Butters and Humphreys find their way to the Pies, indie or collective, I think it's one or the other, if it's this year, is via Bobby Hill exit. I think so. I believe that's the case, yes. What's happening with Oliver would be cheap as to get him. Well, we saw he also had a meeting with GWS. We saw that. There's photo evidence of it. I think what might be best for Clayton Oliver, if I'm looking at it from his perspective, is to get out of Melbourne and go to a club like GWS. It works. If you want to get out of that spotlight, I think that's the best option for him. I'm looking at their midfield. I know while they have Tom Green and Finn Callahan, they do have some struggles with clearance, and Clayton Oliver will help fix that. That's for sure. Ava says, I think there could be a chance where we'd have enough forwards. I think we do now, but we would, especially if we got West out there. Well, I think there's a lot of questions to be answered for the forward line next year as far as the key forwards go. Because you need to see how a Charlie West goes, how McStave bounces back, how many games will Membry play next year. Where's Noah Howe's playing, guys? So we've been talking about Noah Howe as the forward, but he has been was training as a defender towards the end of the season and played in a VFL scratch match against Geelong as a defender. Japan Life says, I like Hill and Allen for pick 2 if we can get a big-bodied mid in a draft. I think Japan, if we got a hold of pick 2, I dare say we'd try to use that to get a player in there somewhere between the age bracket of 22 to 25. Maybe Pies are also thinking HH will step into the forward line to replace Bobby, and we're all pretty keen to see what Harvey Harrison does next year. But please bear in mind that he is coming off an ACL and needs the time from the fans to find himself again. He's not going to be it's very rare to expect someone to have a year like Bailey Smith did, for example, off the back of an ACL. It's very difficult. Howes can't be rated as a forward if he is experimented as a back, says Rick. But Rick, sometimes you as a forward are so versatile and talented that if you want to build your forward line around Charlie West while McStay and Membry are still available, DC, maybe even Mason Cox, which we'll get to shortly, then you go, all right, well, why don't we try Noah Howe's in the back line? We don't know what's going to happen with Reef. We don't know if Billy Frampton's going to be able to back up the year he's had. We don't know about Jeremy Howe's health, if he's going to be able to stay on the field. Darcy Moore's only getting older. Bruzzy's only getting older. So it's like putting your eggs, not ensuring you don't put all your eggs in the one basket. That's what I think. Anyone comes in here and picks on my HH and I'll put you in the naughty corner. Yeah, he's an untouchable for you, isn't he, Teresa? He's one of your untouchables, that's for sure. What's the poll saying? So asking about Beau McCreary. Interesting. Okay. 48% of you said you would consider a Beau McCreary trade if it meant getting Zack Butters in some way. But half of you are saying no. I'm curious, guys. You have me curious here. Very curious. Okay. Is it part of our key player development where some players are going key forward to key defense? Well, you have living proof in Darcy Moore, who was a great forward and then moved into the back line and has had a pretty successful career to date since then. I think it's more about, I think if you're a key position player, generally speaking, you can do relatively well on both ends of the ground if you're a great player. That's my opinion that I hold. So why not try it? And it could be a part of the development, because playing as a forward, it's important to understand the roles of the key defender. And then think about it, right? You're a key forward, you go into the back line, do some learnings there, and then you start to think like a defender. So then if you do go back to the forward line, you should have a better idea of what key defenders who are playing on you are thinking. So that's where, I mean, there could be a multitude of reasons why Noah House is being tried in the back line, but it's much deeper than just, oh, maybe he's just not a good forward, so they're going to try him in the back line. Like, I understand. We do see that where players are badly out of form and their career is on their line. You do see some players go into the back line. I mean, Ash Johnson played in the back line for a few VFL games last year to see if that would work. Reef is a perfect example. Tried in the forward line, did okay, but not to the level that they wanted. So then they throw him into the back line. So there's that. I don't think that's what it is for Noah House, though. There's a ton of improvement we can expect from within as well. Between what we have, the new draftees, the new recruits, add in our Butters, and honestly, our list is way better than 2025. I like it, Voidoid. Up and about tonight. Collingwood supporters are too emotionally attached to the players. I will trade anyone other than the Dacos boys for Butters. I'm with you. I would. That's exactly where I stand. Double A. That's a double A comment. I would trade anyone in our team. Who's untouchable, guys? That's actually, I seriously asked the question. There's probably there's more than the Dacos brothers. Josh and Nick are untouchable for mine. Charlie West, because of the potential and the X factor, is another untouchable. But is there another one? Let's have a look at the list. Let's have a look at the list as it stands. I'll pop this open here. Bear with me. Are you guys enjoying the thumbnails, by the way, with the players in all their new jerseys and the quality of it, the backgrounds? Like, I'm not sure how many of you are graphic heads or how much you guys pay attention to the thumbnails, but if you notice a difference in the quality and the style of them, I'm personally really enjoying putting them together. I'm spending a lot of time doing them, so I'll continue to do so. All right. So this was our list live. So this is our current list, still as it stands. We have 40 on the list total. I'm just looking who is untouchable here. Put that there. I still can't figure out why this chat thing. The thumbnails are cool. Appreciate you, Ava. I still can't get the chat thing on OBS. Cass, how do people come up with these players in other jumpers so fast? Is it that easy? I can tell you, it's a secret. I'm gonna have to gatekeep this one because it ain't easy. It ain't easy, but you gotta, you can't tell them all your tricks. Butters for Bo is a no-brainer, says chronological, and I love Bo, but A-list mids are gold. Okay. Voidoid, the untouchables for you are Schultz, Pez, Dacos, Bo, IQ, DC, Bruzzy. Untouchable other than Dacos brothers, Cameron, Elliott, McCreary. Ooh, Bo's in there, okay. Yeah, all right, let's go through the list. I need to update this because Checkers is no longer at the club, so that takes us down to 39. Let's do that now. We'll call that we'll just call that a trade. Oh, just outgoing. This is outgoing. Okay, so we got 39 total. 39 total here, and that takes us to 32 on the primary list. So we have currently 5 picks available. I'm just gonna have to chuck the chat here. Seriously. What, now you don't want to go anywhere. Controversial opinion, JDG is not untouchable. I don't think that's unpopular. I don't think that's unpopular. I think you have to consider that for sure. But yeah, for me, it's Nick Dacos, Josh Dacos, Charlie West. And honestly, I think everyone else is gettable. I know Lockie Schultz and Bo McCreary are really important to the forward half pressure they applied, so I understand the idea, but I wouldn't say they're untouchable. That's for sure. Lorraine, I'm a supporter for 54 years. I'm worried we are going to be close to the bottom of the ladder. Why would you get rid of experience? So, are you referring to like Brody Myercheck, Mason Cox, Tom Mitchell, and whatnot? Let me know, Lorraine. Give me a little bit more context. When you say why are we getting rid of experience, tell me which players you're referring to, and maybe I can enlighten, or I can provide my opinion. David, has there been any reports that Butters has Collingwood as one of his preferred clubs? No, but where there's a smoke, there's a fire. He wants to go to Victoria. And it makes sense that Collingwood should target Zack Butters. So call it fan theory, but I think everyone, even in AFL media, is thinking that Collingwood should go for Zack Butters, whether it be this year or next year. Charlie West is not untouchable, says Kerry. Okay, Kerry, I'll make that the next poll. See Zack and his mum around town. I can ask him next time. Zack Butters? Yeah, 100%. Geordie De Go, he sort of has one good game in a blue moon and everyone starts to glaze him low-key. He's nothing compared to our other mids, but just in my opinion. Now, I think Geordie at his best in the final series is one of our most important players. I'd go as far to suggest that in a final series where Geordie is healthy, he's top 3 most important players on the field. West is 100% untouchable. Forget all this rebuild talk. You keep topping up and going for the promised land every season. Yep. Amen. What's the poll? Still 50-50. Okay. Anyways, let's do another poll. Here we go. Poll. Is Charlie West untouchable and should, along with the likes of the Dacos brothers? I think that question makes sense for anyone who comes in late, I guess. Oh, cool, sweet. If Butters nominates Geelong, I'll give up on footy. Man, if they do it again, I'll be spewing, that's for sure. I'll be spewing. I'm going to put trade here and make him red. And you guys, that will make sense. That will make sense. You see, Finlay McRae might probably have a crack at West Coast as a rookie because they've got so many more rookie spots open. They've got 4 more rookie spots. I feel like we have 2 choices to go all in for next year or probably punt it for the next few after that. I want to see the veterans off well, but God, it's risky if we get a repeat of this year. It's a difficult one to navigate where we go next year. I think there's going to be, if we talk about the pundits, and depending how we go in the trade period and with players potentially coming in, but I think a lot of people will have difficulty finding where to predict Collingwood, where they would be positioned in a ladder predictor for next year. West is untouchable. Look at when Carlton traded Josh Kennedy. It haunted them for years. Yeah, that's crazy. Lorraine said, yes, I'm talking about those players. I've watched players leave and we have to start again. Who are those players, Lorraine? I need to know names. So you're talking about Tom Mitchell, Mason Cox, Myercheck. I think Lorraine, we're at a crossroad right now as a club where we have to go a little bit younger. We didn't do that this year. We do have to go a little bit younger. And Lorraine, you look at Brisbane, for example, and I know their players under the age of 22, a lot of them have star potential. When you talk about Levi Ashcroft, Will Ashcroft is already a superstar of the league. Kai Lohman can be a star. Ty Gallup, question mark, but he still played the grand final. Logan Morris, superstar potential. Marshall, you can go. They've just shown us this year that you can go younger and still go again. The question is, well, for us, the specific question is these players in our team who are under 22, 23, a lot of them have been in the VFL system for a couple of years now. So we find out next year if all these players who are doing their apprenticeship, who are 2-3 years into their apprenticeship, are going to be anything. And it would kill me if none of them hit. But I'm praying, my fingers are crossed that some of those players, really assert themselves into the team. Lions list is excellent, and Gold Coast, Freo have top list profiles. I agree. That seems fair. I mean, Gold Coast and Freo haven't tasted final success. The Lions have. And while we might not have a top list profile, we do have we've had to date a really good premiership window, a competitive premiership window, while also securing a premiership. So not many clubs get to say that when they go all out. Cats will probably get him. How do they do it? I'm not too sure, Sino. I haven't looked that deep into it. George, I'm just saying my opinion and learn. I haven't been into footy for long enough to actually have a lot of knowledge here. I know I don't know a great deal. That's fine, Ava. One thing about this channel, and some people will strongly disagree with you in the chat. Don't be deterred from that, and don't shy away from voicing your opinion. I think it's a really good thing, even if it's wrong. Who's to say it's wrong? If JDG has a bad year next year and you think he's past it, then you're right. You might be right. So keep bringing in your opinions, whether you think they're good, bad, ugly. It really doesn't matter. I like to think we're all pretty forgiving here, and we can all have discourse, sensible discourse in conversations. Yeah. Okay, but you should know the worth of JDG. He's a star. Look, Yorgos, Frosinos, Yorgos. What did you say, anyways? What was your response to Ava? Let's see. Right, George. Ava White knows nothing. Look, it's maybe George, provide some feedback as to why you think Ava's wrong. Ava White knows nothing is a bit blunt, if I'm being honest. But yeah, don't be disheartened, anyone, if you get a response like that from someone like George. It's no biggie. We're all here. We're all here to have fun. Dimitri and TJ have not yet shown they're up to it. I'm keen to see how Dimitri goes next year. He had a really good season in the VFL as a midfielder, and I watched pretty much every game in the VFL. Yes, he has some things to work on, like his kicking, and maybe his work rate a little bit more, his endurance base. But he started as a halfback flanker last year, and then he announced to SEN at the start of this season he wanted to play as a wingman. And then all of a sudden, Lockie Sullivan's in the AFL, Tom Mitchell's in the AFL, Ed Allen's in the AFL, Finlay McRae's done his shoulder. And then all of a sudden, the great C's part, and he gets an opportunity in the middle, and he wins the VFL best and fairest. So I don't know if it's fair to say you don't think Dimitri is up to it, but once again, we're here to be proven wrong, and that's okay. But I'm definitely unsure about TJ. He got injured. He was dealing with injuries all year by the looks of it, and missed the last 6-7 weeks. So it's hard to get a gauge on where he's at, but he does have next year and the year after. His contract ends at the end of 2027. So he's got a little bit of time to prove himself. I was harsh. It's all good, mate. It's serious, no big. Yes, Afro, I've got to make a video on that after this. We are not nominating McGuane with the father-son, it's big news because it's tied in the history, right? De Goey will be a full-time forward from next year. I'd be okay with that if as long as De Goey can go into the midfield in the final series if we were to play. Any idea what happened with McGuane? Look, he's just probably not good enough. Last year, look, he accumulates the ball well at the Western Jets, but when he played in the national championships, he didn't do much. He also didn't get invited to the national combine. He got invited to the state combine for Victoria. So less than 4 clubs have interest in McGuane. I think, yeah. To sum it up, like we're probably looking at whether let's say McGuane's pick 52, right? Pick 52 value. Maybe we want pick 52 for a bolter from the Waffle Colts or from the Samful, like a Will Hayes or a Charlie West. Maybe we see something more there. That's what I think it is. But doesn't go without saying, if McGuane doesn't get picked up in the national draft, I'm certain at the very least he'll be picked up as a rookie. Yeah. He was rated to be taken at pick 50 to 60 today, which was a massive drop-off. Yeah. Sounds about right. Have we ever not nominated a father-son before? Good question. Tim Van Coilenberg. Both opinions can be fairly accurate. He's clearly super patchy in his career, but De Gea stood up in huge, important passages in moments, particularly finals. I'm with you. What's the point of Lockie Sullivan being on our list if McGuane isn't good enough? What does that mean? What does that mean, Tom? What's the point of Lockie Sullivan being on our list if McGuane isn't good enough? What does that makes zero sense. So we can't rookie him if we nominate him? Well, so how it works, Andrew, is if you are a father-son potential and you don't want to take him in the national draft, then you won't need to nominate him as a father-son to take him in the national draft. You can just take him as a rookie pick. Peter Nutt says, I told you weeks ago we wouldn't draft McGuane with the father-son. He's looked a way out of place at VFL level, and that's the other thing. So we mentioned the national championships, but we also failed to mention the VFL. The VFL, he didn't do much. Benny, good memory. Peter Nutt, I'm still waiting for Silvani to nominate us. I thought you said take it to the bank. Did you say that, Peter? And Benny's got memory like a cat. He's got crazy memory, Benny. He's got a scary talent. Can be exercised for good and bad. McGuane won't be drafted by any club. Well, he was nominated by less than 4 clubs, which is why he was only at the state combine and not the national. Stewart was one. Who else was one? Jake Kelly. Maybe not good enough. Using picks for a bigger fish. The thing is, right, if we were to get McGuane in the national draft, it'd probably be with like pick 52 or even 64. Now, I don't particularly subscribe to the idea we're just reserving those picks to get a big fish, because 52 and 64 aren't getting you anywhere with a big fish. If you think about like a Butters or a Humphrey, that's not doing anything for you, is it? How bad will we look if he goes somewhere else and turns out to be a Butters? He's not going to be a Butters. He doesn't have that grunt about him. He's purely an outside player, and his ball use isn't crazy good. He's got good character. He's got a good work rate. He's got good voice, but it does seem like he's lacking a bit of polish. Michael Christian's son. We shouldn't miss out on a potentially a better player by nominating him, like we picked 2 shit Browns and 1 shit Cloak. There you go. Frankie, good point. Frank, Pies Footy is the best for Pies supporters. Stay in touch with everything. I appreciate you, my friend. Would you equate McGuane to a bit like Goulden in the way he plays? Absolutely not. Goulden has this penetrating, dissecting left foot. McGuane is good in link-ups by way of handball receives and handballing, but even watching him at training throughout the season at Collingwood, his disposal isn't great. His kicking efficiency isn't great. It doesn't have much penetration. They're not darting. And yeah, I would not put him in the same bucket as Errol Goulden. McCarthy will be bid on earlier than people think. That's why we're not nominating father-son. Yeah, McGuane isn't in and under. He's purely an outside player. He was ironically in our VFL affiliate for a while, and we could have rookied him. Liam Picken, in regards to Liam Picken. Yeah, so maybe we are trying to reserve as much points as possible for McCarthy. How early do you think we'll need a bid on him? Isn't he supposed to be like a late first rounder in the 20s? So let's do some math then. Let me open up all right, give me 1 second. We'll do this. We'll actually map it out. I'll go draft order 2025. Zero hanger, do it really well. Draft order 2025. Zero hanger. Man, it's hot in here. I need to start getting the fan back in because the camera will overheat and I'll overheat. Okay, so let's say, there's 22 picks in the first round before, that's including compensation already, but before the bids, yeah? So pick 22, here we go, I'll pick it out for you. So let's say McCarthy goes at pick 22 in the first round. He's worth 686 points. What's the discount right now? The discount's what, 10% or something? Or maybe there's no discount on Academy. I know there's a discount on Father Son. Remind me, guys, if there's a discount for Academy bids, because we're looking at McCarthy. So let's say 686. I'll write that down so I don't forget. Let's go. Do I have a note? I do have a notepad. All right. So pick 22 is worth 686. And then we have so let's find out what's 34 and 52, because remember right, that picks beyond a certain round aren't worth anything. So we now need to find out what pick 34 and 52 are worth, if anything. So pick 32. Oh wow, so that's been pushed out to pick 38, okay? With all the compensation. So that's worth 277. And we need 686. And then like everything else beyond pick 40, beyond pick 41 is worth basically almost nothing. So we only have 277 points in draft capital. Therefore, we are roughly 400 or 409 draft points short to be able to match the bid for McCarthy. We are 409 draft points short from being able to match a bid for McCarthy. So we're gonna have to trade. We're gonna have to trade into the future somehow. We might have to go into a draft deficit. A draft deficit's like a credit loan, right? So you can match the bid, but it's going to cost you for the draft next year. There's been talks of clubs bidding on him in the top 20, okay? Why did we announce it now? Could we not just match the bid unless we're doing it? Maybe it's been leaked in some way. Maybe McGuane's camp have leaked it so other clubs can really consider his name. I'm not too sure. Okay, yeah, the Storm are on. What time is that? Pies obviously aren't afraid to miss out on him. Butters or King, end of 2026, or do we go for Humphrey this year? Hard to get done with this draft. It's difficult. It is difficult. If you're telling me out of the three, who am I taking? Obviously Butters, and then I'd go Humphrey, and then King. That's my order. Use 2026 second round pick. Yeah. So we can do that as well. A 2026 second round pick, or go draft deficit also. O'Brien is there now. He likely is solely looking at the situation and advise them. Well, you have to take his word from it. He was at the Geelong Football Club, where their list management is the bee's knees working under Stephen Wells. You'd have to take Shane O'Brien's word. This is why we've got to stop making such a fuss about father-son potential. Rarely any work out. Yeah, I mean, I was guilty of that last year, but I was new to the game, if I'm being honest. This year, I definitely took more of a back seat with McGuane. And I was always reluctant. I've been reluctant all year when people say, "Oh, what pick is he going to be this year?" I say, "I don't know. I don't know what his range is." Evidently, he's not even going to go in the national draft. Brisbane took our cup north. Storm take their cup. Would love that. What time is the game at? By the way, I asked the question: is Charlie West untouchable along with the likes of the Dacos brothers? And 56% of you say yes, 44% of you say no. Okay. Thank you for the 2, by the way, Benny. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. What else are we saying? What about Mason Cox, guys? With Mason Cox, with the ruck change and the interchange rule changing, and with his manager coming out the other day suggesting that Mason Cox is hell-bent on staying at the club, and probably we won't know where Mason Cox resides next year until after the draft period. Because there's delisted free agency before the draft, and is delisted free agency right after the draft in November. He won't be delisted beforehand, in my opinion, because we probably want to figure out what our draft hand looks like after the fact. And then we can make a decision. We'll either re-sign Mason Cox then if there's list space. And if not, then we'll delist him then. Use Cox as a rookie pick. So I don't think you can use Cox as a rookie pick because we drafted him, Peter, as a rookie. You can't use future picks on draft night. If you go into deficit, it comes off your first pick. So you can't use future picks on draft night, says Rick. But Rick, can't you trade a future second for somebody else's current second pick? Because I remember Richmond and North Melbourne. North Melbourne swapped their future first round pick for Richmond's current first round pick, which was last year. So can you enlighten me there, Rick? We have very little points, yes. It's in like 90 minutes. Okay, cool. Keep an eye on that. Holding on to Cox for another year would only work if our age profile was much younger. Only untouchables, in my opinion, are Jacos, Nakos, Pendles, and Sidey. Well, I mean, look, talking about Pendles and Sidey being untouchable, mate, they're going to be retired after the end of next year, most likely, Tom. But yeah, Josh and Nick, definitely untouchable. Trade Hill for points to use going forward. So I'm just saying, like, even when you want to talk about our draft hand, how short-handed we are, like, we need draft points, let alone a player. So, hey. Pies girl's gone to sleep again. Daughter peeved. Oh, did Collingwood lose against the Eagles? Rick said you can trade them, but you cannot use future picks on a player on draft night. You can trade them, but you cannot use future picks on a player on draft night. I don't understand, because I'll reiterate what I said. Maybe I'm not making sense of it. North Melbourne wanted one of the brothers, the tall brothers. Fuck, what's their names again? One of them is at Richmond. One of them is at Port Adelaide, guys. And North Melbourne got their guy because they swapped their future first for Richmond's current first. So why can't Collingwood grab someone's second round this year in exchange for Collingwood's second round next year to make up the points for McCarthy? Whitlock, thank you, Aquila. So just help me make sense of that. Maybe somebody else is there. What do we think about King? Clearly talented, but I haven't seen too many games where he's ripped a game apart. Is he like a second or third K? He's the man. He's the man, Tim. He had a good year, and in the finals he did well as well. Thanks, Dave. If Cox goes, who is our spare ruckman going to be? Lorraine. You'd be pleased to find out that Oscar Steen is an exceptional ruckman in the VFL and has shown some really good signs. And he's a great marking ruckman. His tap work is probably, because he's not massive, is still in development. But around the grounds, I think he'll go super well. Yes, you can trade a future pick to grab another pick to use this year. Okay, so I think that's what would happen. Which is why we would... Yeah, I mean, let's go back here. I mean... So we'll keep pick 38 to use for McCarthy and grab another second rounder. Like if we finish lower on the ladder, our future second rounder will be here. But you also have to pay, you have to pay a luxury tax on you always have to pay more for the present moment. So when you ask another club for their second round draft pick, you might have to give up. So let's say we want North Melbourne's pick here. We might have to give away a future second and a future third to get this pick. Does that make sense? Because this will solidify our ability to secure McCarthy this year. Does that make sense to you guys? It's raining. Weird day in Melbourne. Can't lie. Where's the game? Is it in Sydney, Queensland, the NRL? We also get a compensation pick for Checkers, probably late third round or fourth. Yeah, so then we could trade that third rounder potentially. I don't know. Yeah, if it'll be a late third or fourth. So because Melbourne didn't end up trading for it, so we'll get that compensation, won't we? But how much is that going to help us? That pick won't have any pick points attached to it. Yeah, the third or fourth rounders won't have any point value. Badri says, need a draft crash course to understand how it all works. Mate, look, I understand a bit more about it, but the thing is, there's a couple things to it, right? There's a lot of information. There's a lot of things that you'd have to understand about the draft. It's very messy. And even for me, it's been nearly 12 months since we've been talking about the draft, right? So I have to go back and refresh my mind, which is why it's good to have people like Rick and everyone else who loves the draft as well. But it's a lot of information. I mean, is there anything specific, or are you Badri, as you're hearing the things I'm saying, I didn't know that. Well, I'm hoping it makes sense. But is it more, I didn't know that, maybe I need to know more? Checkers will go via trade now. The Checkers pick will be used for Buller, so then there's Buller as well. There's Buller. And yeah. Maybe we can get him with that third round pick. It's in Sydney. Okay. So maybe, it's not officially been registered that my check has been transferred as an unrestricted free agent. So maybe waiting for the trade period tomorrow, and then we can see a pick facilitated to come back our way in exchange for Brody Meyer check. Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot, isn't it? Anyhow, guys, I'm going to leave it here. I'm actually going to go do the McGuane video now, and McCarthy. Perhaps I'll tie that in together. And I'll see you guys tomorrow at 6 p.m. for another Pies Presser. I appreciate you all being here. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, go Pies. Ladies and gentlemen, this just in, Cal Twomey has reported that Tom McGuane will not be nominated as a father-son at the national draft. It's time to talk all things black and white. All right, so this is going to strum the wrong string for some Collingwood supporters, but let's make sense of it and let's be rational here and objectify this situation, okay? So, as I just said, Cal Twomey reports that the Pies will not be nominating McGuane to be a father-son at the national draft, which doesn't mean he's not going to be wearing the black and white next year. There's every chance that we take him as a rookie. He was projected to go, at this point in time, to go somewhere between 50 and 60. However, we probably want to reserve as many picks as possible, even if it's in the third round, to use that as draft capital, trade capital for players like Clayton Oliver, Jack Buller. And I'm not saying they are purely only worth third rounders, but you need to have some sort of hand to deal with, and every pick is important, right? So people asking the question, and some are saying this is a catastrophic idea. Some people were saying people hyped this guy up for years, and admittedly I did that last year, but I had not much skin in the game. I'm very new. I was very new to the environment and understanding the draft and kids who were going through it. He's an accumulator of the ball, and he has a great work ethic. He has great character. He has good voice. But when tried at VFL, he struggled for Collingwood in both those games. When he played in the national champs, he didn't have much of an effect. And yes, he'll get his 30 touches in the Coates Talent League for the Western Jets, but it's a lesser team, so you're always going to have players like McGuane, where the talented is limited in a team that struggled to win any games this year. You make that case. So, like I said, it doesn't mean he's not going to be a part of the black and white. He could simply be on the rookie list, and it allows us to use picks elsewhere. The other thing we have to factor in, and I'll put this on here so I can make sense of it, right? Collingwood right now need Zack McCarthy, who could go or will go in the first round. We will need to have around 650 to 700 draft points to be able to match a bid for McCarthy. Right now, remember, any pick beyond pick 44 or something along those lines aren't worth any points at all. So the only picks that hold value for us in this draft right now is pick 38, and that's 277 points. We need 686, which means we need roughly 410 points to make up for to secure McCarthy. One of the ways you can go about it is going in a draft deficit for next year and taking points off your first round pick next year. That's a possibility. The other thing we can look at doing is trading a future second and a future third for someone's second round pick this year. And you're looking at players in this picture. I'm looking at West Coast as well, especially if something with Bobby Hill happens. Getting this pick back could be handy. And look, we're talking more first round with Bobby Hill, so to throw in pick 23 on top of some potential first rounds, I don't know if that's feasible. But let's just say, West Coast or North Melbourne or Essendon, remember, you have to pay a tax for the present moment. These picks in 2025 are worth more than Collingwood's picks in 2026 because we are in the now. So we would, in my opinion, would have to give up a second rounder, future second, and a future third, whether that be for next year or in a couple years' time, something of that nature. That way we can match pretty much with one pick. And we are quite limited. So then, okay, you trade away, you have that 277, plus you get an early second rounder to ensure you get McCarthy and you have some change. And then you're looking at this pick in particular. If you are to get, say, an Oliver or Buller, you'd think this pick here would need to be in that calculation. And if Collingwood were to pick McGuane, even we might not even want to have him at all through the national draft, or to not to sound blunt or mean, but maybe we don't want him on the list at all. And we might pass on these picks. People might say, oh, why don't we just use this pick on McGuane? Maybe we just don't want McGuane at all. There is that possibility. But this pick could be used for trades. We could even trade this away to get better picks, but once again, it's pick 57. You have to be real about what you can do with this number here. This one we'll keep or once again trade away. But at the end of the day, we need to make up another 400 points, give or take, to ensure that we can secure the services of a McCarthy who's done great things. This guy's a hybrid ruck, centre half forward, a real unicorn. Has a lot of potential, was hampered by a hip injury, which limited his games in the Coates Talent League for Oakley Chargers, but had some really strong games in those. I think he only played 3 games in the Coates Talent League, but he was really impressive in the national championships when he had opportunities playing alongside players like Cooper Duff, Tyler, and whatnot, right? who he happened to play with the Oakley Chargers, or somebody of that nature who was a top 5 draft pick in a similar position to McCarthy was playing alongside him at the, is it Emmett? Maybe it was Emmett, guys. I apologize. But yeah, it gets messy. We can try and make sense of it, but there's every chance that what I've just said here won't happen with any of the possibilities that I've just mentioned, or I could be on the money. I don't care if I'm wrong or right. I'm just trying to help you guys paint a picture to see where this goes. And just tying back to the whole McGuane, because it's like, you see tweets here, you see comments here saying, thought Pies fans were saying this bloke was the next Dacos. And once again, I wasn't saying he was going to be the next Nick Dacos last year, but when you're new to the game with the draft, and you hear Kevin Sheehan, who is a draft expert, I think it's Kevin Sheehan, he said Nick Dacos is a top 5 potential player. So then Tom McGuane is a top 5 potential player in the draft. You think, okay, well, that's something. And he had a really good year as a bottom ager. So you think he's going to take one step from the bottom age to the top age into this year and develop. He's an outside player, out and out, can't play inside. He's left-footed, but doesn't have that driving, penetrating kick that dissects teams. He's more meters gained in a way because he doesn't have that ability to find those piercing kicks. Seeing him at training, you notice that. In the VFL, you notice that. Coates Talent League, where you're getting 30, 35 touches a game, you see what his disposal is like. And once again, I'm not saying we won't draft him. I'm not saying he can't be a good player. But you have to understand where Collingwood are coming from, who's being supported by Shane O'Brien, who's come over from Geelong, being under the tutelage of Stephen Wells, one of the goats of list management, and look at their list. So you have to trust the club. You can look at the Browns. You can look at Cloak. Who else? Will Kelly, was he father son? But you see what I'm saying? Like there are father sons that come to the club through the pedigree of the surname, and they don't end up amounting to anything. And those players who we just mentioned aren't even on AFL lists anymore, right? But yeah, people obviously laughing from the outside looking in that aren't Collingwood fans. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I don't get too stuck into the comments, but sometimes I'm curious just to generate an opinion. But someone made a point, like when McGuane played in the VFL for the Pies, he just didn't look up to it. And if you want to really put him up against Nick Dacos was dominating when he played in the VFL for the Pies when he was 16, 17. Getting 30, laughing on the field. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comment section. It's disappointing because it's such a household name. He's a son of a 1990 premiership player, Mick McGuane, as you all know, obviously. But yeah, let me know what you think. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, go Pies. Did I just do all of that live? That's so funny. So I ended the recording for the live stream, and then I pressed record for the recording. That's funny. You guys weren't saying anything in the chat either. You guys are cracker. All right. Well, that's what the video is going to be. I appreciate if you guys see the video because you've already bloody watched it now. I'd appreciate it if you all do click on the video and watch it through for the views and like for the algorithm. Far out. All right, then. Now, yeah, one take, but it's what we do. All right, now this is the end of the live stream. I appreciate you all. And as always, go Pies.